Welcome to Harmony Grove, the pinnacle of modern urban planning. Here, life is meticulously designed for your ultimate convenience. Wide sun-drenched streets, perfectly manicured lawns, and bright signs boast the neighborhood's promise. Everything you could ever need is within a 15-minute walk. For Jordan Chen, it seemed like the perfect escape from the city's chaos, a place where the grass was literally greener and the world felt safe. Jordan spent his first evening browsing online conspiracy forums, laughing at the local legends. Some claimed the Homeowners Association was a cult of ancient vampires, while others warned that the city was a psychological experiment. To Jordan, it was just internet noise. He sat in his new living room, the blue light of his laptop illuminating his skeptical face as he typed out a sarcastic comment about his neighbors being bloodsuckers. The laughter faded when he finally opened the official HOA welcome packet. Amidst the heavy cream-colored paper and elegant calligraphy were rules that felt less like guidelines and more like threats. No leaving the premises after sunset. Emergency exits require a 6-month written notice and board approval. It seemed like a joke, a quirk of a strict community, but the cold weight of the paper in his hands felt disturbingly real. Restless and seeking a sense of normalcy, Jordan decided to drive out for a late-night movie. But as he reached the main boulevard, his headlights hit a barrier. A massive roadwork sign stood in the center of the asphalt, flanked by orange cones that seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. He tried every alternate route, but each one was blocked by signs for private events or emergency maintenance. Panic began to set in as the GPS on his dashboard began to loop in impossible patterns. Every road he took, every turn that should have led to the highway, somehow twisted back into the heart of the community. He drove faster, tires screeching against the pristine pavement, but the landmarks remained the same. After 30 minutes of frantic driving, he found himself pulling back into his own driveway, his heart hammering against his ribs. A neighbor stood on a nearby porch, bathed in the pale glow of a bug light. She didn't look concerned or surprised by his erratic driving. She just watched him, her hand raised in a slow, rhythmic wave. "It happens to everyone at first," she called out, her voice sweet yet hollow. "The transition is the hardest part. But don't worry, Jordan, you'll get used to it. We all do eventually." Sleep was impossible. Jordan spent the night in a dark corner of his house, scouring the digital archives of the town's history. He found records dating back to 1823, yellowed ledgers scanned into the system. The names chilled him to the bone. The current HOA president, the neighbor from the porch, the local baker, all of them were listed in census records from 2 centuries ago. In 200 years, Harmony Grove had recorded not a single death. He sought answers at the oldest house in the district. The elderly resident invited him in for tea. The interior of her home, a perfect time capsule of the 1950s. She spoke of the importance of community and the safety of the walls. But as she leaned in to whisper about staying forever, her polite smile stretched too far, revealing rows of needle-sharp, carnivorous teeth that shimmered in the dim lamplight. Terrified, Jordan fled into the night, heading for the cemetery at the edge of the woods. He thought he could climb the fence, but what he found stopped him cold. The headstones were weathered and ancient, with dates from decades ago, yet the dirt on top of every single grave was fresh and damp. There were no bodies beneath the soil, only the heavy weight of secrets that refused to stay buried. The shadows shifted, and suddenly, he wasn't alone. The HOA board members emerged from the darkness of the trees, led by the president in his impeccable suit. They surrounded Jordan in a silent circle. "We have a vacancy to fill," the president stated, his voice devoid of emotion, all in favor of permanent retention. Every hand went up in unison, their silhouettes long and jagged against the moonlit gravestones. Jordan woke up the next morning to the sound of birds chirping. He felt a strange, heavy lethargy in his limbs. When he looked in the mirror, the man staring back was different. He looked older, his skin sallow and his eyes sunken. On his doorstep sat a newsletter with a cheerful headline, "Happy 6-month anniversary, Jordan." The time had slipped away from him, stolen by the very air of the grove. He walked out onto his porch, the sun warming his cold skin. A moving truck was pulling in next door, and a young man stepped out, looking around with a hopeful smile. Jordan didn't feel fear anymore, only a predatory hunger. He waved and called out with a chillingly perfect smile, "Welcome. Everything is within 15 minutes here. Once you settle in, you'll never want to leave."